Hey everybody, it's Chris from CRT Sports Cards with our first video in 2020 about our T206 set. The first week of the year, we only had a couple cards arrive, so I did a quick website update on CRT Sports Cards. But over the past week, we've had 10 cards arrive, so I felt it was relevant to show off what we picked up. There were quite a few cards that were very meaningful for our set. I've also updated the office, as you can tell. Oops, the sign is over here. We have moved the polar bear sign over there. And if you check out my website at crtsportscards.com, there is a post following my polar bear set. And in there is a link for Vinny's eBay shop. Vinny did that sign. He's also working on a sign for me. I did a custom OBAC, T212 OBAC for Seattle players. That should be here next week. That'll go to the right of it, so looking forward to that arrive. But high quality signs, and if you like that sign, definitely definitely check out his eBay store, and he's got, like I said, a wide variety of signs altogether. But when it comes to our current T206 set, we currently now stand at 116 cards. We have 35 polar bear backs, 12 Hall of Famers after this week, and 5 Southern Leaguers. I have, though, decided to sort of narrow my focus in 2020 on my T206 set. So as you guys know, this set is 520 cards. At 524 if you have a lot of money, but for us, normal people, it's 520 cards. What I've decided to do is go strictly after polar bear backs and Southern Leaguers with old mill backs. The number one priority here is going to be the polar bear backs. There's only 250, and like I said earlier, I'm at 35 right now. So if I can, over the next year get to 100, 125, I feel that will be a heck of a start for completing this entire journey of 250 card subset. Secondarily, I love the Southern Leaguers and strictly old mill backs for when you're in the binder, you're flipping through them. It's a very quick way to figure out what cards are the Southern Leaguers. So if I can find Southern Leaguers under $55 in beater to okay shape, I will pick them up for the binder. And then sort of my third focus, which is not maybe more of a minor focus, the polar bear and the Southern Leaguers are the major focuses, are Hall of Famers for really good deals that are not in polar bear backs. I picked up a Hall of Famer this past week for what I felt was a fantastic deal. The card is amazing, and it's covered. I did cover it towards the back half of the video. But for the most part in 2020, you're going to see a lot of polar bears from me and Southern Leaguers. So with that, let's get to our mail for the week. First up this week in our 10-card mail day is Bob Groom. He was born in 1884 and died in 1948. This is one of my many polar bear backs this week. Obviously, somebody put it in a scrapbook and popped it out, but good to see the polar bear still there for the most part. He did throw a no-hitter versus the White Sox in 1917, but unfortunately his career for the most part was not too successful, but he did have a career, so we can call that successful. In 1909, he went 7-26, and then in 1910 and 1911, he did have 17 losses each season. For his career, he went 119 and 150 with a 3.1 ERA. After his career, he did run a coal mining business in Belleville, Illinois, and then he also founded the Belleville Hill Guards, and he was inducted in the Belleville Hall of Fame in 2008 because of the founding of the Hill Guards. But there is Bob Groom. Next up for us this week is Jack Feister, born in 1878 and died in 1953. This is one of his 2 T206 cards. The other one is a portrait, but this is obviously a polar bear back and very clean back overall. He was nicknamed the Giant Killer, and one thing you're going to notice in the cards, there is a unexpected running of nicknames of several of these players. But he was called the Giant Killer, and because he went 15-5 versus the Giants in his career. He has a lifetime ERA of 2.02. That's third best overall for any pitcher with over 1,000 innings. For his career, he did go 71-44, and he was considered an elite pitcher back in that day. Also in 1906, he did strike out 17 batters in a 15-inning game. When you think of the modern day game, that's about 3 games for a pitcher. From a World Series perspective, he did pitch in 4 World Series, and then he pitched in the minors until the age of 38, going 88 and 69. Jack Feister was born John Albert Hagenbusch, but better known as Jack Feister here for Chicago Cubs. One of my favorite pickups, just from the visual perspective this week, is Lefty Liefeld. This is one of his 2 T206 cards. His other card, I think, is probably one of the best looking T206 cards in the entire set. But Lefty was born in 1883 and died in 1970, so quite an incredible time to die in 1970. Again, this is another polar bear back, with the back being very, very clean. He did win 20 games for Pittsburgh in 1907. And then he did win 15 games in the season, another 5 times. A lifetime ERA of 2.47, and he did win a World Series with Pittsburgh in 1909 when he had a 19-win season. After that, he played for the San Francisco Seals in 1914, and then 1915 and 1916 he played for the St. Paul Saints. But that is Lefty Liefeld. Next up here is John Ganzel, born in 1874 and died in 1959. This is his only T206 card. And here we go in polar bear back, and very, very clean again. He was one of 5 brothers to play pro ball, so that's an incredible family to think. He had 5 sons, and they all played pro ball in some capacity. He had a very interesting career, but I think the most interesting thing of him is he actually purchased himself for $3,000 from the New York Highlanders so he could play for himself, since he owned the Grand Rapids Central League. So that was sort of an interesting note in the book about him. He's pictured in his Rochester Broncos team uniform here, and they were league champs in 1909, 1910, and 1911. So there's John Ganzel. From a polar bear perspective, this is going to be my favorite ad of the week to the set. So Geyer is from a population perspective, he is one of the tougher polar bears to obtain. So as you can see, it's also folded in the half, so being very careful. But another clean back for polar bear. But Rube Geyer was born in 1884 and died in 1962. He had 4 minor league seasons, but then he was called up to St. Louis and played from 1910 to 1913. In 1911, it was his only winning season, where he went 9 and 6, and overall in his ML career, he went 17 and 26 with a 3.67 ERA. His overall minor league career was 76 and 81, so a losing pitcher overall. But from a T206 set perspective, this is a tough one to add to the set and find. And I'm very happy to have this so early on into my polar bear subset. So one of our 2 Southern Leaguer pickups this week is Jack Bastian. This is in an old mill back, and when I pick up Southern Leaguers, I'm only looking for them in the old mill back, not in the Piedmont. I think in the binder, when you're flipping through them, it's a very easy way to tell which ones are the Southern Leaguers and which ones are not. So my whole goal is to get all of these in the old mill. Unknown when Jack was born and when he died, and frankly, it's an unknown reason to why he even has a baseball card in this set. He had a very short minor league career, 1908 to 1911. That's 3 years. He played for 6 teams. Very little known about him. Marginal first baseman. He's pictured here in the San Antonio Broncos uniform. He hit 248 that year in 1909. It's the only year he played for one team. And the question is, why was he included? Did he know somebody? Did he pay somebody to have a card made for him? What is the reasoning? But from a statistical perspective, there's no reason that Jack Bastian should have a card in the T206 set. But it is cool he's included. Our second Southern Leaguer this week is Frank King. And again, here in an old mill back, very, very clean. So very happy to have two Southern Leaguers with very clean backs. And just like Jack Bastian, unknown birth, unknown death, but forever immortalized on a baseball card. His minor league career was from 1904 to 1910. He had a career average of 222, and his best year was in Roanoke in 1908, where he hit 252. Overall, for his minor league career, he played 611 games, had 487 hits in 2,191 at-bats. But there is Frank King in his Danville uniform. Getting into the Hall of Fame pickups this week, this is Iron Man McGinty. Iron Man McGinty was actually born Joseph Jerome McGinty in 1871 and died in 1929. This is a polar bear back, but a little bit of a damage from the scrapbook back in the day, but it is a polar bear back. Iron Man McGinty earned his nickname for his off-season work at the foundry. I mean, what modern-day player would work at a foundry in the off-season? A crazy stat about Iron Man, and another valid reason for his nickname. In 1903, he pitched both games of a doubleheader 3 times, and he won all 6 games. Between 1900 and 1905, he led the NL in innings 4 times. And the crazy part here is he didn't start his career until 28 years old, but he ended his career at 54 years old. His career record overall was 246 and 142 with a 2.66 ERA. He also did accumulate 207 minor league wins. He's pictured here in his Newark uniform. He was a player manager, and he went 87 and 64. He was inducted in the Hall of Fame in 1946, about 17 years after his death. But there is our first Hall of Fame pickup of the week, Iron Man McGinty. Our second Hall of Famer this week is Johnny Evers. This is an SGC 1 case, and it is another polar bear. And as you can see here, there is some writing on the card. I really wish I could figure out what that says. It's really tough, other than the GK at the end. But maybe it was somebody writing their name on the card, but who knows why that is. But I think it's a really cool ad. I'm still unsure if I'm going to keep it in a slab, if I'm going to crack it out for the binder, as it is just a 1. But this is one of his 3 cards in the T206 set. And, of course, part of the famed double play duo in Chicago of Tinkers to Evers to Chance. In that process, he was nicknamed the Crab for his shuffling sideways 4 ground balls. The Tinkers to Evers to Chance really defined the modern-day double play. Also in 1907 and 1908, he drove in the winning runs in both World Series, and he was the NL MVP in 1914. One interesting note from a personality perspective, or relationship perspective maybe, is him and Tinker did not speak the last few years. They were on the same team together. So talk about going to work to do your job, but then not conversing outside of work. He was inducted in the Hall of Fame in 1946, just before his death, and he had a career average of 270. So here are all of the cards for the week. We've got the 2 Hall of Famers. We have the 4 regular polar bear backs. We have the 2 Southern Leaguers, and then we have the hard-to-find Geyer over here on the polar bear back also. And that leaves us with our best card of the week. And this right here will probably shock a few of you, but this is my favorite T206 card this week. And it, of course, it is of Huey Jennings. And there's a couple different reasons why I absolutely just love this card. So first off, it's a Piedmont back. This card is not in polar bear, but I wanted it auctioned for $19.50. If you can look past the paper loss on the top left and the creases, the color and the detail of this card are just amazing. So his eyes, his blue eyes, the face, the hair, the yellow, everything about it to me is just amazing. And it's, to me, what the T206 set represents. I mean, these cards are 110 years old. The simple fact that anything exists from a time period is just amazing. And this is a card that I'm very excited to add to the binder set and probably never let go of. But Huey was born in 1869 and died in 1928. This is my second Huey Jennings. There is still one more, the two hands one, that I would like to pick up. His famous shout from the coaching box was "Eehaw," but from a player perspective, he did get hit by a pitch 287 times. So that's a lot of bruising back in the day. He was the Tigers manager during 3 AL pennants from 1907, 1908, and 1909. He also did win the Giants pennant in 1924. Although he's better known as a manager, he was a heck of a player. Like I said, he did get hit 287 times by pitchers, but he did hit 401 in a season as a player. He was inducted in the Hall of Fame in 1945, about 17 years after his death. But the card, to me, is stunning. The detail is still there. The eyes, the face, the hair, the yellow. This is everything that I like in the T206 set. So there is Huey Jennings. So thanks for checking out the video this week. And if you were curious, that is how my mailbox is right now. Some fool hit it with their car last week, and we're still looking to get it replaced. Had some weather issues here in Seattle this past week, so hopefully it'll be back up and running over the next 3 to 4 days. But as always, guys, I appreciate any comments, any likes, and we are looking to get to 100 subscribers. So if you hit that subscribe button, I would greatly appreciate it. Thanks. Have a great week collecting.